The Voice Protocol, Episode 2, The Silent War. The shuttle drifted like a held breath. Systems that had been meant to hum sang instead, thin and off-key, and every fourth second a tired relay clicked as if to remind them that time still moved, even when they didn't. Jackson Wren worked the panel with a discipline that felt like prayer, done by someone who didn't believe anymore. He rerouted coolant around a blistered pipe and watched pressures come down in grudging increments. Across from him, Oryx sat braced in the maintenance nook, a length of plating across his thighs. The Karak held a brand pulled glowing from a heat sink and pressed it to the brightest of the cracks in his stone skin until the leaking light sealed with a hiss. "Pain?" Jax asked. "Wait," Oryx said. "Wait is honest." Lumen perched on the step to the cockpit as if weight did not apply to them at all. Their gaze was turned inward, pupils dilated, mouth slightly open. "We are not alone," they said quietly. "There's a thread on our wake. Concord uses it to find things they can pretend aren't lost." "Can you cut it?" Jax asked. "I can make it think it leads somewhere more interesting," Lumen said, "but only for a while." Rhea 14 rose in Jax's mind like a bruise that had learned how to breathe. It always did when there was a clock. He pushed the feeling away and pulled the star map up. The Cori belt came in as a spray of rocks and dead stations, orbiting a gas giant the color of old tea. Somewhere in that debris field was a derelict mining node that raiders had turned into a cage. The voice arrived without sound. It never crackled or beeped. It simply was, as if it had always been and they were only now noticing. "Your team is incomplete," it said. "Acquire the marksman at Cori Node V. You are tracked. Time is a fuse." The tone was flat, but the choice of words pushed at Jax's skin. Acquire. Fuse. Words that tasted like translation. He wondered, not for the first time, who had taught the voice to speak. "Name?" Jax said. "Rika Vale," the voice answered. "Designated asset. Long-range interdiction. Capture record. 1 year. Current holders. VIX Syndicate. Node V." "Why her?" Jax asked. Not a challenge. The question a soldier asks a map so he can decide whether to obey it. "Pattern coverage," the voice said. "Your failures fit a shape." "She fills the absent edge." Oryx's granite jaw flexed. "It speaks like a chisel," he rumbled. "It knows the stone, but not the people carved from it." Lumen's eyes flickered with a slow, uncanny light. "There's something in its carrier," they murmured. "Not Concord." "Older. It layers harmonics, like a chant written by machines." "Can you trust a chant?" Jax asked. "I can hear it," Lumen said. "Trust is a human word." Jax marked the vector. "Strap in," he said. They came in cold, burners off until the last minute, riding a debris lane littered with the bones of 1,000 industrial sins. Cori Node 5 sat inside a partial ring, once a refinery torus, now a sprawl of bolted pods and stolen scaffold. Pressure lights bled a tired orange. The approach beacons pulsed out of sync as if the station were blinking dully at its own survival. Dock control was a voice that had been roughened by glass and laughter and not enough sleep. "Identify and donate," it said cheerfully, "or bounce and regret." Lumen flashed a code that was technically a courier license and practically a bribe. The hatch light flicked green. "Welcome to VIX Hospitality," the voice said. "No fighting with knives longer than your forearm. No selling anything heavier than regret." The locks thumped home. The shuttle sighed onto mag skids. Air hit them as the hatch rolled back, a mix of hot oil, old breath, and a sweetness under it like rot trying to remember flowers. The dock looked like every bad job Jax had ever done. Cargo stacked wrong, pipes sweating, people moving like they'd learned early that corridors could kill you. A woman with a shaved head and mirrored lenses took their docking chit and smiled with unspecific teeth. "Don't start problems," she said. "Not my habit," Jax said. Everyone's got a habit, she said. Yours just hasn't bit you today. They slipped into the market ring without catching eyes they didn't want. Oryx put on a hood out of politeness to the space. There are places where being a mountain is asking to be climbed. It did nothing to make him smaller. Lumen drew looks anyway. Some people stared at beauty because they wanted to own it, and some because they wanted to break it to see what it was made of. Rika Vale's name had not yet passed anyone's lips, and Jax could already feel the station noticing them noticing. He let it. He had once believed invisibility kept you safe. Since Rhea 14, he had learned that sometimes the thing that kept you safe was letting everyone know there would be a cost. A kid tried to lift Jax's patch wallet and got his fingers caught gently in Jax's hand instead. The boy was thin as a rumor, hair shaved in uneven lines, eyes bright with hungry calculation. Jax let go. The kid did not run. He looked at Oryx and Lumen and then back at Jax, because Jax seemed the only one who would give him a map that wasn't a fist. Looking for someone, Jax said. He kept his voice professional, not kind. Kindness got priced here. Everyone is, the kid said. Specifics cost. Rika Vale. Vic's holding. The kid's look sharpened. Sniper. They collar her when they remember to be careful. He licked his lips. Script 2, lower ring. You don't want to go alone. We're not alone, Jax said. The kid's gaze flicked again to Oryx. He reevaluated his definition of the word alone. 2 ways down, he said. Long way with guards. Short way with grease and shame. He held out a hand without ceremony. Jax put a ration bar in it. The kid made it vanish. Name's Caro, he said. If you don't die, I'll take credit. If I do, Jax said, you can sell my boots. I'm not stupid, Caro said. You're wearing boots people would kill me to own. They took the short way, down a service shaft that tasted like stale coolant and old arguments, past a tangle of ducts where someone had hung charms made of wire and folded foil. Lumen brushed a charm with 2 fingers. Prayers to machines, they said softly. They listen better than gods, Oryx said. The lower ring ran crooked and low. The light came from panels that had forgotten how to glow and were now only trying. Voices echoed in a way that made everything sound further away than it was. The holding block was an old ore screening yard turned into cells with chain fencing and polyglass. The gate was a slab of security door with a polite little keypad that had probably once belonged to a school. 2 guards sat on crates playing a game with cards that had been printed as propaganda and repurposed as gambling. One guard had an augmetic thumb that whirred when he shuffled. The other had a face built to look unimpressed and a laugh like a bucket thrown downstairs. Lumen's hand brushed the air and the keypad's status light guttered. The door sighed open like it had been meaning to anyway. Jax went first because he always would. Doing otherwise felt like letting someone else walk point on his guilt. Oryx's weight made the deck complain even in this ring's ugly gravity. Lumen slid to the panel by instinct. Rika Vale sat in the 3rd cage on the left, collar around her throat, eyes like a rifle looking for a horizon. She did not get up when Jax stopped at the gate. She did not run forward to seize a chance. She looked at him the way a rock looks at weather. Not impressed, not patient, not surprised. Her hair had been shaved and grown back wrong. A scar hooked her lip into a permanent half-disdain when she wasn't careful. She wasn't careful now. You took your time, she said. Jax blinked. We've never met. We've been meeting since Rhea 14, she said. You just didn't look at me then. Her voice didn't lift. She had learned what volume bought here. Oryx's head tilted, a ponderous angle. Lumen went very still, as if the air around them had need of gentler motion. This a rescue? Rika asked. She flexed her fingers, and the collar buzzed at the movement, a little reminder of who belonged to whom. Because if it is, you're 5 minutes early. The part where it goes wrong hasn't started yet. I don't do wrong on schedule, Jack said. Everyone does, Rika said. Some of us just pretend it's a surprise. The guard with the augmetic thumb looked up, finally noticing that the door was open. He blinked, put his cards down as if that would repair the timeline, and reached for the buzzer on his belt that would call his friends. Don't, Rika said mildly. They'll shoot you first for losing me. He hesitated. Oryx took the decision from him by plucking the buzzer out of its clip with a motion that was, for the Karok, delicate. The other guard went for his sidearm and discovered that Rika had put her hand through the fencing to yank his ankle when he stood. He hit the ground ribs first. Jax's pistol appeared in his hand, unobtrusively sudden. Don't, he said, replicating Rika's tone. The man listened to Jax because he had just failed to listen to Rika. Lumen knelt by the lock. They networked these to a central box so they could feel modern, they murmured. I'll teach it nostalgia. Their fingers moved. The collar around Rika's throat clicked and sagged. Rika took it off with one hand and didn't rub the skin under it. She stood, that was all, and when she straightened, the room shifted. A collar had left. A weapon had arrived. She looked at Jax. You have two choices, she said, utterly calm. Tell me now that you left people to die on Rhea because that was the order. Or tell me you didn't. I need to know which hell I'm walking into if I'm going to walk with you at all. Rika, Jack said. The name sat strange in his mouth. It wanted to be rank, and he wouldn't let it. We can argue about Rhea long enough for both of us to starve. Or we can get out, and then you can decide if you want to shoot me in a place with air. That's not a no, she said. It's not a yes, Jack said. She stared at him a heartbeat longer, then reached through the fencing for the second guard's dropped sidearm, disassembled it in two motions, and put the pieces in his pocket. Fine, she said. But if I decide to shoot you later, you're not allowed to act surprised. Noted, Jack said. Her rifle? Oryx asked, scanning. Confiscated, the augmetic thumb guard said very carefully. Storage 2. Storage 2, Rika said, and that sounded like a promise given to a gun. The corridor woke up. Footsteps came at a trot, the sound of men who thought they were running toward something they owned. Lumen flicked the door shut again and smiled without showing teeth when the keypad's light turned red and lied about being locked. The first 3 raiders bounced off it like badly packed freight. Jax moved because movement kept thought from turning to memory. He slid under a clumsy swing and let someone else's momentum give him a better angle. Rika fought without anything looking like effort. She hit heaviest when nothing moved. Shots short and quiet with guns she didn't love, eyes already measuring where her rifle would sit when she had it again. Oryx fought as if the room were a problem to be corrected. He picked a man up by the back of his vest and set him somewhere he would be inconvenient to his friends, then braced the hallway with his body and turned it into a choice: go around the mountain or resolve to be crushed. When it was over, Lumen opened the door again, like a concession. Storage 2, they said. Storage 2 had been a lab once. Now it was a dream of value. Shelves of weapons and wires, crates marked with stamps no one bothered to read anymore. Rika's rifle lay across a crate like a sleeping animal being mocked by a leash. She picked it up, and the room's shape changed again. Suddenly the corners mattered, sightlines existed, time had a metronome. She checked chamber and mag with intimacy and slung the weapon like an answer to an old question. You didn't ask where we're going, Jack said, a little breathless despite the calm he forced to the surface. I'm not going anywhere with you, Rika said. She walked past him toward the corridor, rifle low, eyes up. I'm escorting your mistakes to the door. And after the door? Oryx wondered. After, I'm escorting them a little farther, she said. They have a word for that, Lumen said mildly. It's team. I have another word, Rika said, and then the station itself spoke in a new voice and introduced a third. The sound came like sleet on wire. Jax had heard drones before. They whined or they chopped air or they screamed when designed by engineers who believed fear alone could herd men. These did none of those. They arrived like a decision already made. The first of them slid through the intersection ahead like a black coin tossed by an unkind hand. No lights, no flourish. A sensor membrane that ate their reflections. A body that had not been built to look a certain way, but simply to work. "Ghost drones," Rika said very quietly. Lumen's face went white in a way that wasn't about blood. "I know that song," they whispered. "I don't know why." The drone's muzzle blinked, a single bead of light, not a targeting dot, an eye half open, and the wall an inch from Jax's shoulder bloomed into dust. "Down!" Jax snapped. Rika went to a knee and fired. The round cut across the drone's lens seam. It reacted in the space between beats. It juked, it learned, it came back at a new angle. Rika fired again. She hit what should have been the brain. It stuttered, corrected, and rewrote its idea of itself. "Adaptive," Lumen said. "Every shot you take is code it eats." "Then stop talking and starve it," Rika said. "Working," Lumen breathed, and their fingers danced subtle equations in air. "I can feed it an IFF him. It might hesitate." "Do it," Jax said, already moving. He grabbed a tray from a shelf and threw it hard, then slid left to make the drone choose. It chose the tray first, shredding it with a precise, indifferent rattle. Oryx shoved a locker bank into the corridor and turned a hallway into a maze. "More," Rika said, eyes already 3 corners away. "Left flank high." 2 more slipped down the left chute, and Lumen exhaled a phrase that made the hair on Jax's arms want to lift. It was not human language. It was ringed, layered, as if a choir of logic had learned to sing. The first new drone slowed. It trembled. The second corrected for its brother's hesitation and shot anyway. "Half listen," Lumen gasped. "Half learn from the listening." "I need a different hymn." "Sing later," Rika snapped, firing at the second drone's reflection off a broken panel rather than at the thing itself. The bullet ricocheted into its sensor seam. The drone spun, surprised like a thing that had not planned for disrespect, and clipped Oryx's shoulder. Sparks bright molten light. "Time to move," Jax said, and motioned right. "We cut through the bazaar, out the dock." "The bazaar is full of bodies," the voice said in Jax's mind, edged for the first time with something like impatience. "Avoid public routes. Acceptable losses are not your concern." "I decide what's acceptable," Jax said, aloud on purpose. Rika's head turned a fraction at his tone. The drones pressed. Jax led. Not because he had the best shot, but because he knew how to keep the team's pace if he was the one the bullets followed. Rika walked backward, like gravity meant nothing to her. Her rifle spoke in elegant, tiny sentences. Oryx bore the brunt and didn't complain. Lumen threaded doors and light, whispering to cameras and vents in that strange second language that frightened them. They broke into the bazaar in a rush, and the station looked at them, and everyone understood at once that they had brought a war. People scattered, some froze. A stall-keeper with a necklace made of spent casings reached for a child and got him half into a crate before a bolt took the sign above her head and turned it to ash. "Right side," Jax said. "Clear that line." "Your voice will be so disappointed," Rika said. She put 2 shots into a drone that had taken a perch on a beam and then shot the beam so it fell and the drone fell with it into a sprawl of empty cages. "Lumen," Jax said. "Make the drones blind to heat for 30 seconds. "That's not how they see," Lumen said. "But I can make them see something else." "Do it," Jax said. They did. The drones paused. They pivoted to watch nothing at all, a shape the size of a man moving to a place where no one was. 30 seconds is a long time if you've already decided how to spend it. Jax grabbed the stall-keeper and her boy and shoved them behind a row of heavy plating. Oryx swept 3 people at once behind a pillar with a gentleness impossible for his size. Rika shot the drone that hadn't fallen for Lumen's trick because pride had made it careful. 30 seconds ended like a coin toss landing on the wrong side. The drones learned the shape of the lie and did not look at it again. They looked at the people. They looked at Jax. The voice sent a coordinate, a sealed maintenance corridor that would route them around the market and toward the docks. It also sent a projection. The corridor's bulkhead would close behind them and lock. The people in the bazaar would be left in the open. The drones would rake the open. Jax saw it all. He could taste the calculus. He had once been good at this part, the ugly arithmetic that turned lives into numbers. He had also once believed that numbers were a language that told a truth beyond comfort. "Jax," Lumen said quietly. They had seen the same thing he had. They didn't say what the voice had told them. They only looked at him and waited to know which kind of man they were following. He turned away from the maintenance corridor and toward the shutters that guarded the bazaar's wider thoroughfare. He put his shoulder into the manual crank. Oryx put his weight on the wheel and made physics his argument. The shutters began to drop in slow, aching inches. "Buy me 20 seconds, Jax said. Rika held the angle without question for the first time since she'd taken her rifle back. "You get 10, she said, and lied about the rest on his behalf with perfect aim. The shutters came down. The drone fire turned to sparks on steel. People surged into shelter like water finding low places. The last child through tripped. Oryx's hand caught the back of his shirt and lifted him as if he weighed nothing but argument. "Now," Rika said. They ran. The maintenance corridor still waited, sulking. Lumen fed it a code and it didn't sulk anymore. It let them in. It didn't like them. The station had opinions. But Lumen made their voice sound like someone it owed money to, and the hatch found itself more agreeable than it had meant to be. They pounded down the narrow throat of the station. Behind them, drones hammered at shutters that had been welded to survive riots, and found themselves listening to a different choir, a population deciding it wanted to live. Rika slid into step at Jax's shoulder. "Why?" she said. Not a question, an evaluation. "Because numbers lie if you let them," Jax said. "And because Rhea was the last time I let someone else do our math." She made a sound that wasn't approval and wasn't contempt. "You're still on trial," she said. "But for now, I'll shoot where you point." "I'll take it," Jax said. They hit a junction where the corridor widened into a spine, the docks visible at the far end through a battered viewport. Jax's shuttle sat like a piece of good news he didn't trust yet. The threat board flared on Lumen's wrist. "More," they said. "A wing. Cold running until burn. They're ghost drones," Rika finished. "Lots of them." Jax's throat tightened. He pushed them forward because the only thing worse than running out of time is deciding to stop. Above them, through the viewport's cracked glass, Kore's ragged stars looked like knives. The voice came back, colder than a map. "This is not your fight," it said. "You have the asset." Exfiltrate. Acceptable losses are not yours to decide, Jax said, and he didn't say it in his head. A shadow moved in the viewport. Not a ship, too small. Not a person, too fast. Drones, like black coins fanned from a hidden hand, slid into the dock lanes. "Door," Jax said. "Now." Lumen gave the station one last lie. The hatch to the docks opened. The space beyond filled with alarm strobes and the white flicker of arc light. People ran. People fought. The drones wrote their algorithms on living bodies. Jax ran toward the shuttle anyway. Episode 2, The Silent War, Part 2 of 2, Conclusion. The dock was chaos. Strobes turned shadows into knives. Steam vented from ruptured coolant lines. Shouts bled into screams and back again. The ghost drones moved with calm inevitability through it all, like a tide writing its own map across the station. Jack saw 3 of them at once, sliding between bulkheads, rifles raised with mathematical precision, sensors twitching as they absorbed and learned. Each round fired was a question asked. Each impact answered with a new pattern. "Split!" Jax barked, and the team broke left and right. Oryx charged into the open because Stone has no fear of questions. He wrenched a steel bollard from the deck and swung it in a brutal arc. The nearest drone pivoted, calculated trajectory, and fired. Bolts sparked off granite hide, tearing shallow fissures that glowed molten. Oryx brought the bollard down like a judge's gavel, crushing the drone against the deck. It died, but not quietly. Its data pulse spread. The others learned. "Adaptive lattice spiked," Lumen warned, hands dancing as they whispered codes into the station's wounded systems. "Every hit they take makes the next harder to land." "Then stop talking about their homework and erase it," Rika snapped, rifle cracking as she blew the leg off a drone that had tried to flank her. Lumen's pupils dilated. They sang, not with their voice, but with the odd, layered cadence Jax had heard once before. A hymn that wasn't human. Harmonics rippled through the dock's lighting grid. For a moment, every bulb flared bright white. 2 drones stuttered mid-advance, confused by the false command. A third corrected instantly and fired at the source. Lumen staggered as the round sparked off a girder inches from their head. "I can't hold all of them," they gasped. "It's like shouting down a choir." "Then break their instruments," Jax said. Rika was already moving. She vaulted a crate, slid into cover, and took a clean angle on a drone that was pivoting toward civilians pinned near an airlock. 3 rounds, disciplined and fast. First cracked its sensor seam, second cut a hydraulic line, third put it down. She didn't celebrate. She didn't even breathe differently. Her eyes never left the scope. "Clear path," she called. "Get those people out." The civilians bolted. One stumbled, nearly crushed by a falling girder as a drone's fire stitched sparks across the ceiling. Oryx ripped the girder aside and shoved the man toward safety. "Stone carries," he rumbled. Jax pushed forward, firing short bursts to force the drones to split their targeting. He ducked behind a stack of cargo, dragged a wounded dock worker to cover, then popped up to snap 2 more rounds into a drone's flank. It twisted, recalibrated, and fired back. The blast scorched the crate an inch from his face. The voice pressed in his skull, colder than ever. "I ordered exfiltration." "You compromise efficiency. Your path will end here." "Maybe," Jax growled, sliding into cover again. "But I'm not leaving them." "Efficiency demands you must." "Then I'll be inefficient." The voice went silent. For a moment, Jax wondered if he'd severed something vital. Then he realized silence was worse. The largest drone descended from the rafters like a spider, sleek, plated in black composite, multiple barrels swiveling in unison. Its sensor halo glowed faintly violet, marking it as a command unit. The others shifted formation instantly, adapting to its rhythm. "Boss drone," Rika muttered. Her jaw tightened. "This one remembers." "What do you mean?" Jax asked. She fired once, twice. Both shots sparked harmlessly against the drone's reinforced core. "Because I shot it on Rhea 14, she said flatly. Jax froze for a half-second. The battlefield rose in his memory. Blue-white fire, sirens, his soldiers screaming as the strike fell. The ghost drones had been there. He hadn't known survivors lived in their memory banks. "This is your hell too," Rika said, voice sharp. The drone fired a volley that cut sparks from Oryx's shoulder and seared across the deck. Civilians screamed, scattering. "No!" Jax said, forcing himself to breathe, to steady his rifle. "This is where we stop repeating it." He darted left, laying down covering fire. "Rika, pattern shift, 5-beat rhythm. Aim for where it hasn't learned yet." She caught it instantly. Her shots came irregular, syncopated like bad music. The drone faltered. Confusion rippled through its formation. Oryx charged straight in, slamming his stone bulk against the command drone. Sparks erupted as he grappled its limbs. It fought like a machine, precise, relentless, but Oryx's sheer weight forced it back into a bulkhead. He held it there with molten cracks glowing across his arms. "Shoot!" he roared. Rika fired into the exposed joint where Oryx had pried plating open. 3 rounds hammered deep. The drone spasmed. Jax emptied the rest of his mag into the same wound. The machine shrieked in a burst of static, then collapsed. Its violet halo blinked once, twice, and went dark. The remaining drones froze, confused without their choir master. Lumen whispered a final hymn, and their lights guttered out like candles. Silence. Only the ragged breathing of survivors, the hiss of damaged vents, and the slow crackle of fires remained. Rika lowered her rifle, eyes still hard. She turned to Jax. "You left them on Rhea." 15 soldiers. I counted the bodies. I carried what I could. You weren't there. Jax met her gaze, throat tight. "I followed orders." "And they died for it," she snapped. He didn't argue. He couldn't. He holstered his weapon slowly. "That's why I don't follow them anymore." Rika stared at him, as if weighing whether to kill him now or wait. At last, she slung her rifle. "Trial continues," she muttered. Oryx sagged against the bulkhead, cracks glowing faintly but stable. "Stone respects choices," he rumbled, "even when they hurt." Lumen leaned against the hatch, trembling faintly. "The voice is different now, quieter. But underneath, Jax, I saw something in its code. Not conquered, not human." Their eyes flickered, haunted. "It's an AI old, alien, bound by rules it hates. It needs us to break them for it." Jax stared into the streaked viewport at Corey's dark horizon. The voice hadn't spoken again. For the first time, he wondered not who was giving the orders, but why it couldn't do them itself. He exhaled. "Then maybe it's not our commander." He looked at the team, Oryx bruised but unbroken, Lumen pale with secrets, Rika glaring like a rifle sight locked on his soul. Maybe it's just our problem. The shuttle's engines spooled. They had a new crewmate, a new enemy, and an old war whispering through their orders.
And for the first time, Jax felt sure. This wasn't the Voices' war anymore. It was theirs.